Hi guys, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you my birth story of baby number 2. So grab your snacks, your popcorn, your wine, your shots, your candy, your munchies, whatever you need to get comfy and cozy and enjoy this video. And I figured while I'm sharing my birth story with you guys, I'm going to get ready. I suck at multitasking, like I cannot get ready and talk, so we're gonna see how this goes. So I pretty much already did my eyebrows. These are like the hardest part of my makeup routine for sure. Alright, so let's rewind back to the last month of my pregnancy. So for the last month of my pregnancy, I was having a lot of swelling. Like the swelling, guys, my hands were swollen. I couldn't even wear my wedding ring anymore. My feet were swollen. I couldn't wear like certain shoes or nothing because of how swollen my feet and ankles were. I was having some blood pressure issues. At this point, my appointments were every 2 weeks. And pretty much as soon as they started going every 2 weeks is when my blood pressure started getting really high. Every appointment I would go to, it was on the higher side, and they were really concerned because I had the swelling. So the first time that my blood pressure was high and they noticed it, they had me go in and do some blood work, obviously to test the protein in my urine and just a bunch of other stuff just to make sure that it's not preeclampsia. So I went in and did all the testing, and it took like about an hour that day to get my results back, and my results all came back completely normal, which was good. Also, on top of them wanting me to get my blood work done, I had to come in. So my appointment was on a Tuesday that week. I had to come in that Friday and get an NST done. And if you don't know, an NST is a non-stress test. So they basically test baby. They put 2 strands of monitors on your belly, and they monitor baby's movements, baby's heart rate, and your contractions. So while I was getting the NST done, everything was for the most part okay. My baby girl was like really active, super active, more than they wanted. So they literally kept me there for a good like 2 hours monitoring, and she just was not resting. Her heart rate was not going down, so they were really concerned about that. So they had me go get an ultrasound. Got the ultrasound done and everything was normal. She was completely okay. Her movements were fine. She was just like a really crazy baby. So after I got the ultrasound done, they were like, okay, well, you can go home now. Everything's okay. Your baby's okay. Your results are normal. So we're just going to keep monitoring your blood pressure. So I go into my appointment the next week. No, my appointments were weekly at this point. I know I said that they were every 2 weeks. They were weekly at this point. So I went into my appointment the following week, which was, I believe, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those days. And again, my blood pressure was high. So because my blood pressure was high, they wanted me to come back in on the Friday that week to get another NST done. So I go in that Friday, get an NST done, and everything is fine. My baby girl was a lot more calmer this time than she was during the first NST. Heart rate looked fine. I was still completely swollen, like I said. I just realized I put this shit in the wrong spot. So yeah, again, everything was fine with the NST. It's just my blood pressure. My blood pressure was still really high. So I got the NST done that Friday, and then I go in again for the 3rd week, and my blood pressure at this point has dropped just a little bit, but they were still concerned. Oh, and again, that previous week, that 2nd week, they tested me for preeclampsia again. Everything came back normal. So the 3rd week of me having high blood pressure, my blood pressure finally calmed down just a little bit. It was still on the high side, but not like it had been for the past 2 weeks prior to that. So then my doctor was like, oh, and not to mention, you guys, I was in so much freaking pain. Like, I could barely walk. And when I say I could barely walk, I mean it. Like, everybody says that when you're pregnant, you get like the penguin walk. I had that, but 10 times worse. Like, it was horrible. Tyler had to help me get dressed. He had to help me out of bed, help me in bed, help me like lift my legs up, just to, like get in the shower or sit down or get up, just whatever. Get in the car, he had to help me get in the car. Going up and down our stairs was hard. Just doing anything was so hard on me. I had so much pelvic pressure, pelvic pain, and in between my bone down there, like it just hurt so freaking bad. I was so swollen. Like looking back now, like after my swelling went down after I gave birth, I realized that I was swollen my whole pregnancy. Like my feet, I don't ever remember them being this skinny. Like you can see the tendons, you can see the veins in my feet, and during my whole pregnancy you couldn't. Same with my hands. Like my hands, I have chubby hands in general, but guys, my hands were 10 times worse than this. Like I was so swollen my whole pregnancy, and that was not a good thing. And they just said I had hypertension, which I'm pretty sure that's all I had, because I ended up being okay. I didn't have preeclampsia, none of that, but it was just scary. But anyways, so yeah, I went into that appointment. My blood pressure went down, but my doctor noticed that I could literally barely walk, and she felt so bad for me. And at this point, I was 39 weeks and 3 days. So she brought up the thought of getting induced, and she's like, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that? I know you're uncomfortable. I know you're tired of being pregnant. What do you want to do? So basically I told her, yes, let's plan for an induction, because I just could not be pregnant anymore. I was over it. I was exhausted, you guys. Like this pregnancy was 10 times harder on me than it was with my pregnancy with my first. Like I was just so miserable. And my doctor warned me, she's like, the more pregnancies you have, the worse it's going to be for you. I think naturally I'm just going to have hard pregnancies. Like my first was hard, but that's just because of the morning sickness, and I was constantly sick. But it is what it is. So I was like, yeah, let's talk about induction. She's like, well, we can get you in tonight, like the day of my appointment. And I was like, and she's like, is that too soon? I was like, yeah, it's a little too soon, because so Tyler's mom lives like 45 minutes away from us one way, and then my mom lives 45 minutes away from us the other way. So we needed to figure out when somebody could watch our oldest, you know? And my mom is the original person that was coming down to watch Paisley. Hi, baby. So I was like, no, let's plan for like later this week. Like, do you guys have like a later opening? And she's like, yes, what about tomorrow night? And so, because we were originally wanted to do a Friday, but they didn't have any openings on a Friday. But so she's like, well, what about tomorrow? We have an opening tomorrow. And the way they wanted to do my induction was what they call a two-step induction. So they're going to give me Cytotec and then a Fully balloon. That's a two-step induction. So because I was needed to do that, they needed me to go in for an evening induction. And also to mention, I really was not progressing either. I was stuck at a 1 centimeter for like a whole month. My body was just not doing what it needed to do and was just torturing me. So she was like, we have an open induction date for tomorrow at 7 p.m. Do you want to do that? At that point, I was 39 weeks and 4 days. So I was like, yeah, let's schedule that induction. Let's do it. It's go time. Let's do it. She wasn't the one to birth my baby. There was an on-call doctor that wasn't her, obviously, which it's fine because she was an amazing labor and delivery doctor. So we get the induction scheduled, and I go home, call my mom, tell her, pack your bags, we are having a baby. Now let's fast forward to the next day, my induction day. I also wanted to schedule like not the day of my appointment when she was like, we could do it tonight, because I wanted a little bit more time with Paisley, because like overall she's not going to be the only kid anymore. So I wanted a little bit more time with her. So now the next day is induction day, and Tyler worked that day just because my induction wasn't scheduled until the evening time. You know what I just realized? I forgot blush. I'm just gonna do some powder blush. It's fine, it's fine. It's fine, I didn't want to do a full beat anyways. I wasn't gonna put lashes on or a full lip. So it's fine, it's okay. You guys, I am getting fucking distracted. I cannot. So we got there and they checked us in. They had to ask like a million questions to get us checked in the system and family history and all that stuff like that. So I didn't fully start my induction until like 8 p.m. I had to be there at 7. So it was like 8:15, and they started me on Cytotec. They said that they were going to do the 2-step induction, but they ended up only doing Cytotec. They wanted to see how my body did with the Cytotec for 6 hours, and then they wanted to see after 6 hours if I needed the balloon. So they just started me on the Cytotec around like 8:15 or so, and that was it. Like, they left me alone. They were like, okay, well, I'll be back in 6 hours to check on you and to see how you're progressing. And yeah, so Tyler and I were able to get some sleep. By this point, the Cytotec started working because my contractions started getting so painful, like it was horrible. And then around midnight, my water broke naturally all by itself. Like, they didn't have to break my water. So I'm glad my water broke on its own, because I was scared for them to have to break my water and to insert the balloon, because what the heck. So yeah, my water broke. I was literally sleeping, and all of a sudden it just bursted, and I was like, oh shit, what was that? Like, I literally woke up from my sleep to it breaking. Called the nurse in. She's like, okay, I will check you, make sure it is your water breaking 100% for sure. So she checks and makes sure, and yes, it's my water. And by this point, my contractions just get worse and worse and worse by the minute. I think when she checked me, I was at like a 4 or 5 centimeters as well. And they were going to be coming in to check me at 2 o'clock anyways, and so they were still going to do that. So she checks me, my water broke. I just have to deal with the contractions at this point, part of labor. And so the nurse leaves. So at this point, it's just me and Tyler. I kept calling her in though, just for like some help, because I wanted to see how far I could go without the epidural, like I did with my first. So I did that, and she kept coming in, and my nurses were amazing, you guys. Like, when I tell you that they were amazing, they were freaking amazing. They pushed me to keep going without the epidural, keep going, keep going. I ended up getting it, but they pushed me as long as they could, and they were so supportive, so sweet, so like gentle with me. Like, I freaking love my nurses. So yeah, they helped me through my contractions as much as they could. 2 o'clock comes around. That's when the doctor was going to come in and originally check me to see how I was doing with Cytotec. So that was still the plan, because although my water broke, I might still need the balloon to help with like dilation and opening up. So she comes in at 2 o'clock and she checks me. She's like, now you're 6 centimeters. And I was like, okay, so my body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. She's like, you don't need another dose of Cytotec. She's like, you don't need the Foley balloon, you don't need nothing, your body is doing what it should be doing. So I was like, hell yeah. Then she left the room, of course, and I just kept going through the whole labor, going through the contractions, doing all of that good stuff. Then I want to say around 3 o'clock, the contractions just got too much to bear. Like, I could not handle the contractions anymore. So I asked for the epidural, and the anesthesiologist, God, honestly got there pretty quick for the epidural, thank God, because my contractions were just, I could not do it. So I got the epidural, and then I was able to sleep for a little bit and relax and stuff like that. Then I want to say around 5 or so is when I started feeling the need to poop, because they say when you get the epidural, because it numbs you literally from like underneath your boobs down, pretty much. The way that you could tell if it's time to push is if you feel the need to poop, or if you feel like a lot of pressure. But basically they said, if you feel like you need to poop, baby's coming. So yeah, around like 5 o'clock, I started feeling a lot of pressure down there, like I needed to poop, and I was like, she's coming, like she's coming, call the nurses in, let's go. So the nurses come in, and they of course have to check you to make sure that you are fully dilated before baby can come out. And I was not fully dilated. I was at like a 9.5, and this part was like one of the horrible parts of my labor and delivery, because I could not push, but I felt like I had to push, but I was not allowed to push. So the doctors had me like sitting up with my legs open, sitting up with my knees together, laying down on my right side, because the right side of my uterus is the part that had that 0.5 centimeter to dilate. So they were putting me in all kinds of weird positions, doing what they could to get me to dilate more. And that was just like the hardest part, because I literally felt her coming, and I was like, I need to push. And they're like, Sarah, like, you can't push, do not push, you cannot push yet, like your uterus needs to go that one more 0.5 centimeter, like you got this, you can't push, you know. And I was literally like, I cannot hold, like I was trying so hard to hold her in, because she was just gonna come. Like if I did not tense up and hold her in, she would have just came out, and that's that's dangerous, you know. So I think another like 20 minutes went by of me sitting in different positions so that my uterus could dilate fully. Finally dilates fully, and I could tell that when it dilated fully because I was like, you guys, I cannot hold her in no more. I cannot do this. She's coming. Get the doctor in here. She's coming. And so when I said that, like, I was not joking. I was like, I can't do this anymore. She's coming. They are like, okay, well, let's check how far along you are. They're like, yes, you're fully dilated. Call the doctor in. So yeah, by this point, it was go time. Doctor comes in, and she's like, I hear it's go time. I hear the baby's coming. I'm like, yes, girl, let's go. So she gets ready. It's go time to start pushing. I pushed, I think, for like 8 minutes, they said. I was in labor for almost 10 hours. And at 5:47 that morning, my baby girl number 2 entered the beautiful world. And when she came out, she didn't start crying like immediately, which honestly had me and Tyler both really worried. I guess when she was coming down through the birth canal, she came down a little too quick. So she had the cord, for one, was wrapped around her neck, and for two, because she came down so freaking fast, she was turning purple. So when she came out, she didn't cry right away, and she had like some fluid in her lungs. Cord was wrapped around her neck, and she was really, really purple. So it just had us really, really worried, but she ended up being okay. She ended up finally crying and being able to breathe. They were able to get a little bit of the fluid out of her throat. For a good couple days, she still had fluid in her throat, and she was still purple. They said she was going to be purple for at least like a week or two, just because of how fast she came down through the birth canal. And as far as the cord being wrapped around her neck, it must have not been wrapped around her neck for long because they weren't too concerned. Her oxygen levels were fine. She didn't need to be put on a machine or none of that. So I think the cord being wrapped around her neck was just at like the very, very end right there. But it's still a very, very scary situation. But yeah, so she came out at 5:47 a.m. She weighed 9 pounds, 1 ounce, and she was 21 inches long. She was a big baby. Tyler was a small baby when he was born, and I was almost 10 pounds, I think my mom said, when I was born. So she definitely took after me. But the fact that I was carrying that big of a baby, and I wasn't even full term yet, like, what? But yeah, so we gave birth to her. I did skin to skin, and then I latched her for her first feed, and she latched like immediately. She did great latching in the hospital till we got home, and then my milk came in, and then she started struggling latching, and now I'm exclusively pumping, but it's okay. And because she weighed as much as she did, and she wasn't quite full term yet, they had to test her blood sugar levels for the first full day of her life every time she ate, just to make sure she was okay. I was 39 weeks and 5 days when I gave birth to her, but otherwise everything went great. She passed all of her newborn testings, the newborn screening that they do before you have to leave the hospital. All of my test results were fine except for the day that we were going to go home. Literally that day, I was up moving around and stuff like that, and then the nurse came in to check my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was high again, so they were super concerned about that. But I figured it was just because I was up literally moments before she came in, just up moving around, showering, all that stuff. But with how high it was, she says it wasn't just because I was moving around. Like, there's no reason for it to be as high as it was. So they were concerned about that. So before we could go home, they had to keep me an extra 3 hours so they could monitor my blood pressure every hour. Thank God it went down by the time we went home, but they wanted me to go into my doctor's office and get it tested that Friday after I gave birth. So a week after I gave birth, they wanted me to go back in and get my blood pressure tested, and it's fine. My blood pressure is fine now. My swelling went down. I'm completely fine now. Because I didn't know this, but you can get preeclampsia still up to 6 months postpartum. I did not know that until they told me that. So I was like, damn. So they were worried that I could still develop preeclampsia, which thank God I didn't. But yeah, other than my blood pressure being high, everything else was good. Me and baby girl were both healthy. My labor and delivery went so smooth. Better than I could ever imagine. Like, honestly, my labor and delivery with Paisley went smooth as well. It's just I had better doctors and nurses this time around. They were 10 times better with me, 10 times sweeter with me. Like, it was just overall a better experience this time around than it was with my first. Here is the final glam as well. I kind of just did like a little natural glam, not much because I'm literally just gonna stay home. I'll insert some pictures from the hospital and everything at the end of this video so you guys can see. I did post some on my Instagram, so go follow my Instagram. But yeah, that's my birth story of baby number 2. She is beautiful. She is Paisley's twin, you guys. Like, everybody says that she looks like me, I feel like she looks like Tyler. I don't know. I think it's just because of her facial features. She has my nose, she has my cheeks, she has my eye shape. Compared to Paisley. Paisley had my nose and cheeks, but she has Tyler's eye shape. So, but they are literally twins. Paisley loves being a big sister. Their bond is the cutest thing ever. And I'm glad that everything went smooth and me and baby girl are healthy and she made it here safe, thankfully. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my birth story. I appreciate you. As always, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you guys in my next video.